Welcome to On Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton alongside Gerry Hamilton. Special update here today. We always like to break in when there's breaking news, and there is some. Gerry, yesterday morning, we were talking on Coffee and Football about when the University of Texas, and we were asked this by a listener, when would Texas release some of the game times for the 2025 schedule? Well, we thought maybe it might be in June, but Chris Del Conte and the folks in the athletic department put this out just moments ago, and so this will update it. They've got 6 games in the queue with time slots already decided. 11 a.m., of course, kickoff for Big Noon. That is the Fox game, on the Ohio State game that will be on Fox. Then the 3 non-conference games that are at home are all set in time, so you can go ahead and make your travel plans to Austin. San Jose State at 11 a.m. UTEP at 3:15, Sam Houston State at 7 o'clock. Then the OU game will stay. This is interesting. Stays in that 2:30 time slot like a year ago, Gerry. There'll be some mayo on corn dogs at the state fair for Gerry Hamilton. The A&M game will be a nighttime primetime game at 6:30 on ABC. That will be on ABC, that logo down there that you can barely see. Saying that it'll be prime time there for the Longhorns versus the Aggies. And, of course, that game has already been moved from Saturday to the day after Thanksgiving to Friday. So interesting situations here. Gerry, anything that stands out to you almost immediately?
Well, you get 2 you're guaranteed of 2 drone shows with Sam Houston State and A&M for the fans that love the night games. The OU not changing. There was I just looked this up. 7.63 million was the TV rating for Texas OU last year. So kind of makes sense they'd leave it where it's at, right? I mean, it didn't. That was, I don't know what the list of the highest rated games are on college football off of that, but that is one of the top, I would say, 25. So. That game was successful at the 2:30 time slot, obviously. Nothing else. I think Texas fans are going to love that the A&M's a night game. Love it today. Yeah. It's a night game, as it was expected to be.
Yeah, I think you'll get more students back who often go home over Thanksgiving for it being a night game, so that'll help the crowd situation. Also, I think just being in prime time on a major network matters. That'll be good. What about this situation? I'm looking at that UTEP game, Gerry. It's on the SEC network. That starts at 3:15 on a Saturday afternoon in early September. The over and under, if you're putting it out there, of what the temperature will be on the field September 13th at kickoff is got to be 150 degrees on the field. I mean, it is going to be hotter than you know what down there on the field. But all that said, the 3 home games, they're back-to-back, are all in different time slots. 11 a.m., 3:15, 7 o'clock. Interestingly, Sam Houston's the only one that is on ESPN Plus, not one of the family of networks, actually, that is broadcast. So you'll have to have ESPN Plus or ESPN, I think it's 3, to get their broadcast of the Sam Houston State game, which may hold some interest to a lot of Texas fans who may have went to Sam Houston State or know people that went there as well. So that might be a good draw for ESPN Plus. I look at this schedule and it makes sense, Gerry. There's nothing that doesn't make sense. The Ohio State, we knew they were going to be that big noon kickoff. The San Jose State game is a smaller opponent, so you knew they were probably going to get the 11 o'clock kick on that. They weren't going to get prime time or even the 2:30 slot for ESPN. 3:15 for UTEP, again, a minor team by comparison to major teams. And then Sam Houston State at 7 o'clock. Really the 2 big pieces, in my opinion, other than just allowing fans to get out ahead of their travel schedules with this those first 3 home games. I think the OU at 2:30 start is huge. And I will say this, it's not just the TV viewership that matters. I mean, the Cotton Bowl last year, you and I were there. It was packed to the gills. The Dallas Texas Exes did a great job with their pregame situation up there at the Cotton Bowl. It is just going to be a full-on party all day that you're going to be spent by the time you go home. If you go to the Cotton Bowl that day, it will be hot, it will be humid, and you might have a few beers or two if you're a Longhorn fan on that one. Gerry, anything else surprise you about that Oklahoma game? Because historically they've tried to get in there at an 11 o'clock start to not deal with the hot weather, to get out of the state fair early on, so the state fair can kind of turn into the state fair at night. What are your thoughts on that? It looks like it's almost going to be a semi-permanent move. This is the second year in a row it goes to 2:30. Is that a big deal to you, or is that just a acknowledgement of where that game sits in the pantheon of TV needs and ratings?
I've said for a while. I mean, look, the TV ratings had a drop, obviously, from the 11 a.m. to 2:30, 11 a.m. 2 years ago to 2:30. It wasn't significant. So I think, look, from a all-encompassing around the game, I've always liked the 2:30 start at, because I always have a recruiting brain on too. 11 a.m., you're limited in what kids are going to show up for that game. How much does it matter anymore? I still think it matters for young kids because they still are at the age of influence where they go to a Texas-Oklahoma game, and that resonates with those kids. I mean, Elijah Bo Barnes, there were a number of kids, Xavier Phil Same, the year that he flipped from Florida to Texas, that was the game he went to. So that game still resonates, right? It's a special game for recruiting purposes. So I think from a recruiting perspective, obviously, I think it's a good thing that it's at 2:30. From the fans' perspective, I think it's less than 50-50. I think fans would prefer the 11 a.m. kick so they have the rest of the day to travel. Then, a 2:30 game, if that game's a longer game or if it goes into overtime, that is a tougher travel back game, I think, for some people. But then the flip side of it is a lot of people, hey, man, if you're out having a good time with the Texas and OU parties, you might like the 2:30 start. So I expect that to stay at 2:30. I like the time, the 2:30 time. One of the things I want to hit on, Bobby, is the August 30th, 11 a.m. kick on Fox. Last year, I was just looking at TV ratings for 2024. The Fox didn't have a game like this last year, right? On the 30th or the 31st. The 31st, they had Penn State at West Virginia. It drew 3 million, right, on Fox. They're in a different stratosphere for this game this season, considering it's Ohio State and Texas. They played in the semifinals last year. But if you look at the first weekend of games last year, Bobby, USC LSU on Sunday the 1st had the highest TV viewership at 8.62 million. Notre Dame A&M had 7.92. Clemson, Georgia was 7.58. Miami, Florida was 6.35. I have a feeling Texas, Ohio State's going to shatter all of those to start the year. I think we could have a 9 to 10 million people watch that game.
Well, I think there's no doubt. I mean, Texas, Michigan last year, Gerry, did 9.35, and that was the second week of the season.
Yes.
So I think Texas, Ohio State's going to break into the 9, maybe get into the 10 million watch and be one of the top 5 watch games of all season, just like Texas, Michigan was. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Going back to that OU game at 2:30, and I think this is important. Texas is the home team this year, so that helps a little bit in recruiting. But it also portends something else. Texas only gets 3 SEC home games because of that. Yes. So while we're looking at this list of games, Texas has 6 home games in all this year. The only SEC home game time that has been announced, and this is because of TV implications, is A&M last weekend in November. So Vanderbilt and Arkansas times have not been announced because they'll be announced as the season unfolds, as it relates to various aspects of that, whether Vanderbilt's playing well or Arkansas is, or even if Texas is, they might get a prime spot or be pushed down the lineup quite a bit. But I think that's one of the issues that Chris Del County is talking about the home schedule for Texas this year is not super appealing other than the Aggies.
Correct.
In part because they only have 8 conference games, and this is a year in which Texas is the proverbial home team in the Cotton Bowl. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more. Gerry, first, I want you to say thanks to our sponsor of this breaking news segment, Mark Saunders over at Allstate Insurance.
Yeah, when it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects all of it? Well, I got that news for you. The good news, that's Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders, who serves the Austin and Round Rock area and the entire state of Texas. That means he's the only insurance agent you'll need, from your everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and even an ATV if you got one of those. Call Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. Here's my personal guarantee. With over 35 years of experience, you'll be in great hands with Texas alum Mark Saunders. Do what so many other On Texas Football family members have done since Mark Saunders became a sponsor of OTF. Give him a call today at 512-218-8571. If you're in the Austin or Round Rock area or the entire state of Texas, Mark Saunders is your guy.
Gerry, I want to go back to those middle 3 games, or those first 3 home games for Texas, if you will. San Jose State at 11, UTEP at 3:15, Sam Houston State at 7 o'clock. Look, don't you like the early start time in early September in Austin? I mean, that either that or the 7 o'clock. The 3:15 is just
no man's land. Yeah, it's no man's land.
You agree with that?
Yeah. So being the numbers guy, before we did the show, I looked up the average temperature, highest temperature on September 6th in Austin. It's 95. September 13th, it's 91. Now, that's not an every year thing. That's, I guess, the average in recent years. So, yeah, I mean, not anything over the 90s when you're playing at 11 to 3:15 it's going to be, like you said, Bobby, 150 plus on the field. Depth comes into play. Sark's talked about this in the stands. You have to be careful to not have too much of the wrong hydration before the game and not have enough of the correct hydration during the game. But yeah, the night game obviously is the pick from a weather standpoint, but it's also not possible 3 weeks in a row. It's never going to be possible. I'll also say this. That September 20th game will be the game that Texas tries to bring recruits to, obviously because of start times with high school games on Friday nights and a lot of those kids having obligations on Saturday morning with their high school team. So if you're looking for this beyond the start time for the game itself, from a recruiting perspective, that September 20th will probably be the first weekend Texas brings in recruits for games. They're not going to really do that at the 11 and 3:15 game and make the parents sit out in the heat unless they really want to be there. But yeah, the 3:15 start feels like no man's land. I mean, it really does. As does the second half of the 11 a.m. kick if you're on the wrong side of the stadium.
Yeah. Especially, this is where you want to be underneath the overhang, if possible, or in a suite with a cool air conditioning breeze, or in your home watching from home. I got to say this. It's interesting that you mentioned the idea behind recruiting and its impact. I would agree with you. That 7 o'clock start, you can bring the recruits in 5 o'clock, 5:30, have them in, show them to their seats, etc. They'll stay overnight, maybe come back to the facility the next morning if they're really elite recruits and want some more information from the University of Texas, et cetera. That makes a lot of sense because, to your point, that's one of the benefits of having that OU game at 2:30. You don't necessarily see a lot of guys from Houston or Austin go up to that game, but the Metroplex kids do go to that game, and fundamentally, a lot of them have that Saturday morning practice. And if that game's at 11 a.m.,
no chance.
They're not beating the they would have to leave their house at 9 to get into the stadium, even remotely close to 11. The 2:30 kick allows them and their family a lot more opportunity to actually get to the game. So a couple of recruiting notes that come out of this, I think, byproducts of releasing the schedule.
I want to say this too. So again, why would they leave the Texas OU game at 2:30? I just looked this up. Texas OU on the 12th, October 12th weekend was still the second most highly viewed game in college football that weekend, despite the 2:30 start Central Time, 3:30 Eastern Time. The only game that had more viewership was the night game, Ohio State at Oregon.
Yep.
So the Texas-Oklahoma game, still second most viewed game last year on that same weekend, and I would suspect it will be the same again this year. So if it's not broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, they're not going to. The reality of it is that you're not going to be at the state fair in prime time. And that
Right.
Oregon-Ohio State game was prime time.
That's
so
right.
you really have two windows for Texas OU, 11 a.m. or 2:30. They can't push it back to later. So that's just one of the issues there with playing at the Cotton Bowl. But I heard Chris Del Conte, by the way, over in Destin today, Jerry, say we haven't played, Texas or OU hasn't played in Austin or Norman since 1920. He goes, it ain't going to change anytime soon. That's why he wants that 9-game schedule. He's committed, and I think Joe Castiglione and the OU brass, his counterpart at Oklahoma, everybody on both sides, I think, love that game to be in Dallas because it's such a connection for those two schools in the DFW Metroplex, one of the, I guess, fourth largest Metroplex in the country at this point from a DMA perspective. But look, all in all, breaking news here. Again, Texas sets its schedule 11 a.m. on Fox for Ohio State, ABC and ESPN for September 6th against San Jose State. 3:15, they have on September 13th, they have the UTEP Miners on the SEC network. Then 7 o'clock, September 20th, Sam Houston State, the Bearcats, now a Division I or FBS team of late comes calling. That will be on ESPN Plus. 2:30 kickoff, October 11th, second Saturday in October, as usual, Texas OU. This will be on ESPN or ABC. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. And then a primetime game day after Thanksgiving, November 28th, that is, 6:30 kick for Texas A&M in Texas, and that will be in primetime on ABC.
One more thing to add, which is interesting, looking at the TV ratings from a year ago, with the Texas A&M game moved to the 28th. Last year on the 30th, obviously Texas A&M drew 9.45 million. It was the marquee night game. Michigan Ohio State was number one, 12.3 million on the noon start on Fox. Georgia Tech the night before on the 29th drew 8.47 million. That game will be played on the 28th this year, but it will be earlier in the day, probably the 3:30 game before the A&M Texas game, because the college football schedule on Friday, November 28th this year, Georgia Tech, Iowa, Nebraska, those, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, that's already locked in for 11 a.m. Texas has zero competition for the night game. So I think you're going to see, obviously, that number probably creep over 10 million this year, especially if A&M holds up their end of the bargain and there's something on the line for that game. If that game has real meaning, it could creep up even higher.
Yep. All right. Just to recap one more thing too. Vanderbilt and Arkansas home games are the only two without a time slot yet. The away games, none of them have a time slot as yet. Those away games are Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Georgia. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks again to our sponsor, Mark Saunders of Allstate Insurance. Give him a call if you need any insurance needs in Austin or the surrounding areas. He's a UT alum with 35 plus years experience. 512-218-8571. Jerry Hamilton, thank you for helping out here. Go over this. And breaking news again, Texas releases 6 scheduled dates with times for their 2025 football schedule. All right, guys, y'all have a good one. Rod and CJ, as well as Coach Shipley, be back around 3:15 this afternoon with the winning drive. Hook 'em.